Alright, it's like everything's up and running. Means we can start. Alright, so it's just a minute before 9 and I think we can start. So alright, so welcome. My name is PB Girdharan and I'm actually working on a personal project that I've actually this project got concept. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the project. I'll talk a little bit about the project. So this project came into conception last year. Actually, this project, like the idea of this kind of a thing has been in my mind for like a long, long time. But I actually started like envisioning it like last year. So the project is Little Angry Tomato. So that's kind of that's anyway. So imagine like Doom. So but instead of Doomslayer, you play as a little tomato guy wearing a suit. The gameplay is obviously not going to be like Doom. It's nothing like Doom. But one of my biggest inspiration is from Doom, obviously. Um, Here I did some like concept level design. I was gonna make it in like inside kind of a style. So if you guys like know inside, so I was thinking of some like this side like side scroller kind of style, or maybe even better than it inside my friend Pedro. There we go. Something like that, right? But then I decided to go more of the third person style because as the gameplay changed, I had to change how the game, the camera will work too. Here's one of the a boss fight kind of like a level I had like envisioned. There we go. That's him in action. This was all like last year, right? And yeah, they have all like weird puns you'll ever see. So like this is called P dot Cinepod, which is like P Cinepod. This is called Pain Apple. And yeah, so what I did last week was I started to kind of flesh out the idea of a tomato story. So what I started to do was, let me go to my OneNote. So I started to write about it, right? I started to like getting more into what kind of I want to do, and again, like I should be having that notebook right here somewhere. Guys, give me a second. So what I started doing was I started to sketch out the bare idea of the project. I don't know if you guys can see. Oh, it's blurring it out. All right, just give me a second. There we go. Now it should be fine. So I started to kind of like write about it, kind of like where I want the mechanics to like go and stuff. So yeah, and then I've started. I like actually like digitized the entire thing. I brainstormed. So basically, how I kind of vision the project to be like is you enter every level with no weapon, or actually a basic weapon, not no weapon, like at least like basic weapon. So even if you collect like all weapons in like a particular level, they all kind of get like it taken away from you, and then when you start a new level, you go back to your basic weapon, right? The little stars you see here, those are like mechanics that will be affected by skill trees. So imagine a skill tree upgrade where you can maybe start a level with like a random lightweight weapon, right? Something like that. Now here's one thing you have to make like keep in mind is weapons are not your usual weapons like guns and swords, like actual physical guns. Even though the weapons are gonna function like guns, they are physically not guns. I'm gonna tell you, like the next point will cover what that means basically. So, so the entire game, not the entire game, one of the core mechanic is called harvesting, right? So what harvesting means is when you kind of like um, imagine the glory kill in the Doom, right? So when you like shoot something and it's in the staggering state, you can kind of like glory kill and get health points. But the other thing is the harvesting is kind of like a special finisher move you can do to an enemy that turns them into a weapon. So if it's an orange, right? So the orange in this like the like design wise, the orange has like a turret kind of like heavy, not heavy, like a machine gun kind of like an action, right? So when you like do harvest an orange, you get a machine gun. So you don't take the machine gun from the orange. The orange is the weapon. So you kind of like yeah, it like and the thing is, all the like the glory kills and stuff like that. I like imagine it to be like like finisher exactly like the glory kills in Doom, right? So yeah, and then as you turn them into weapon, and they will be added into your weapon wheel. So this kind of I'm still kind of I feel like this exact mechanic there's still a lot to work, right? Because I'm not sure if I want to like get the physical weapon every single time. So if I kill one orange, I get the orange as the weapon, but then I kill another orange, and then you're like, what do I do with this orange then? So these oranges stack up, or like do I just like get the ammo from that orange, or do I throw this orange away and get that orange, or do I like, or is that an entirely new mechanic, right? Like maybe I can use this orange, like deplete like the entire weapon's health, and then maybe harvest that orange, because that could add another layer of a strategy, right? Because you don't want to waste a perfectly good like weapon you have in your hands just to get another weapon. So like, do you want to get rid of enemies, or do you want to get rid of your weapons first? So it adds another layer of like a strategy, but I guess we will figure that out during after playtesting. So exactly. So when you get the weapon, right? So do you get the amount of seed the deseeded enemy had? So if the enemy had like 30 bullets to 30 seeds to start with, the seeds are like bullets in this case. So I'm imagining some kind of like a cybernetic kind of like fruits. So maybe so orange has like it's like sentries or something coming out of its like turret, like maybe it's better if I just draw it like a real quick. So imagine if this was the orange or something. So its turret kind of like comes from the side. This is like the side view, right? So it's like an angry orange, something like that, right? And kind of the thing is, it kind of like shoots itself out. So so it kind of like shoots its seeds out, right? In like a weaponizing way. So when you harvest, you get what seeds the orange already had. So that adds another layer of mechanic, right? So you don't want to like oh what give me a second, right there. All right. So you don't want to kind of like uh oh, I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Yes, so yeah. So you get the amount of seeds they left. So if they start off with like 30 seeds and they shoot like 5 seeds, right? So you have like 25 left and you harvest them at it, you get 25 seeds, you don't get 30 seeds. So that's add another layer of mechanics. So there's this mechanic called daze, right? So when you shoot, so any enemy, right? They don't just like instantly start shooting you when they see you. So all the enemies have a prep up time. So they all go like and then they shoot, right? So they every single one of them have a prep up time, and you can actually daze this enemy through the prep up time, because they all don't prep at the same time, right? So maybe orange is prepping up, so you shoot orange is dazed, right? So dazed means it will stop its prepping up process and it will just be like frozen in that spot for like a second or so. So that means for a second you can like keep orange out of your head, and then you can focus on some other enemies, right? And then you can come back to orange and then like keep on shooting it again, so you don't you like kind of like stall. Otherwise you can just like empty your entire clip onto the orange and then go and harvest it. So that's kind of like one of the other mechanics I had in mind. So yeah, so weapon also have health, right? Since they're vegetables or fruits themselves, when other enemies shoot at you, or when you like actually obviously when you like deseed, like when deseed in the sense when you like use all of the seeds of that weapon, it renders itself useless. So you just like throw it away, and there's no point having that weapon right anymore, because like of course why would I need that? So you would look for another orange to harvest or something. So weapons also have health, right? So if you still don't use that orange and you have it in your hand, only when it's equipped and when people are shooting at you, or the weapon will also lose its health. So deseeding is a process, right? So whenever the enemy starts shooting, so when they're like reducing their seeds, they're shooting the seeds. So from like 30 seeds, it has like no seeds. It becomes a husk. So now enemies or like turned into a husk already. Like that means they've depleted all of their weapons. You can't harvest them, but you can maybe but still kill them to get I don't know, maybe some health or some XP or some other like droppables, right? So again, it will add another. So you'll just like you'll try to avoid like maybe the orange's blast. Try to turn him into a husk. You can also turn him into a husk yourself. So if you like keep on shooting an enemy, so even if it's at its stagger state, you will if you still keep on shooting at it and then like kind of like bring its health to zero, it will become a husk again. Not a husk, but then like it will drop like whatever it would drop if it was a husk. Exactly, there we go. So that's the mechanic I was talking about. Shooting but not killing a fruit can slow the deseeding process. So this puts them in the dazed state. There we go, dazed state. Alright, so there we go. So this is kind of like the base core like gameplay, right? Of course, like I can add in like skill trees or I can add in like choices or whatever and like anything, right? So now we're gonna jump into a little Tomato Story lookup table, right? So this is like the schedule I have made for myself, like a little basic prototype that I can send out to test. So, alright, so this is kind of the enemies I have had in mind. So it's not strawberry, this is actually pineapple. Pineapple. So I have to add in another category, right? So the enemy name is really different from the enemy type. So I was thinking we could add in another kind of what do you call it? Another tab between them. So you could call them enemy name, and then I could is there any way I can like move this tab? Delete and then add a tab here. Then I could call them fruit type. So orange, I don't have a name for it yet, but peas, and then enemy name is p.cinepod, and then this is of course pain apple. This is pineapple. Yeah. All right. So all of them winds up. Every single thing winds up because that's the window where you can kind of like daze it. So orange, what orange does is it kind of like preps up and it has like two sentry guns which I told you about, and it kind of like shoots in like a straight line, like alternative like pop 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 something like that. So and then there's also peace in a pod. So peace in a pod is kind of like a mortar. So there's like three seeds and then they kind of like prep up, aim at you, and then kind of like shoot in an arcing. So when it drops, there's like a blast radius. Pineapple is kind of like a self-destructive kind of a fruit. So like obviously pineapples have like a spiky things, right? So like the pineapple, what it does is it would go to like the center of combat, and then it would like prep up itself and then kind of like just blast around, and any projectile that hits in its way, even the enemy, it's deadly lethal. Of course, when it hits the enemy itself, we can tweak it in such a way it doesn't damage the enemy itself. I'm gonna move this a little bit like this. There we go. All right, so and then we can bring this in like that. All right. So then again, these all of the weapons are the enemies itself. So if you got a piece in a pod, right? So if you got a piece, you would have mortar yourself. So you can use that kind of like a grenade launcher, right? So you can like shoot like in a grenade launcher kind of a style. And then there we go. That's pineapple. That's pineapple. There we go. Pineapple. That's like a shrapnel grenade, right? Because so you can throw the pineapple and then you can cause grenade. Alright, so that's kind of, let's jump into the fun part of it. I mean, I'm not saying this was not fun, this jump into Unreal Engine. So far, I have like a basic, really basic prototype. I got the main character in. Look at that, that's a tomato. Ooh. I got some shooting mechanics in, I got some weapon cycling in it. There's a lot of work yet to do, right? And then I have like our base enemy. So this is our base enemy, right? So this is like taking damage function of it, but the base enemy has like a basic blue behavior tree it can like use to follow. What it can also do is it can so I use that behavior tree as a reference, and then I kind of like use the orange behavior tree. Recently I learned I can like run a behavior tree as in itself, so that means I can use the base behavior tree, like I can call it and then I can run another behavior tree like at the same time. I thought like you could only like use one behavior tree at like one time. This is kind of like the orange's behavior tree. So we'd obviously go into this also, what the orange does and stuff like that, how it finds the player and stuff like that. I'm just kind of like, so if I play, so this is our like basic. So tomato already, so tomato, Tom, so Tom already has like all every level starts with a basic gun, right? So it has like 20 bullets. It's like a weak gun. You would want to use it during emergency situations, right? So actually, I'm actually searching for a weapon. Let me go into weapons, right? Because I want to switch off the raycast. Oh, actually, there we go. I'm gonna close this behavior tree. I'm gonna go into base weapon, get shoot straight rotation, and I'm gonna switch off this. All right. So you can see it's kind of like click, 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 click. I don't know if you guys can see. Maybe I should switch back the ray tracing. There we go for one frame. So there we go. Pop, 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 pop. You can see it getting hit. Maybe I should put it in duration for duration and then like 1 second, right? 1 second is enough. So you can see it kind of like shoots pop, 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 pop. Now these guys, right? They have like different states, right? So petrol is when they're just like roaming around, and you can see they kind of like prep up and then attack me. So if I hide behind a cover, you can see one of them is dazed, right? So they go back to patrol again. And then you can see when it's alerted, it's going to prep up, and if I shoot it, it's going to go into the dazed state. So I can just let it chill for a while, and then, oh, it's prepping up. I can daze it, and then I can go back and I can put this daze. The thing is, I don't have like the harvesting mechanic yet, so this is just it, right? So if I hide, they would go back to patrol. The best part about this is when they want to alert themselves or they want to prep up or something, right? Oh, is it oh, actually this is one of the recent bugs when they like choose the same spot. So I'm using environmental query systems to determine where the enemy should be. All right, let's see they go back to the same spot again when it's alert. That's actually one problem I have to fix. But again, let's go through the behavior tree, right? Of orange, like what it does in general. So it has like different states. So there's an enumerator called action. Now actions are common, is part of the base class, right? So it belongs to every single enemy in the game. Let's see, I'm gonna there we go. So they have like patrolling, and they have alert states, and they have like prepping states, and they have like attack and daze states. Now I have to add in like staggering state also when I implement the staggering system. So basically this behavior tree chooses when to switch between those states, right? So this is the patrolling states. So even in patrolling state, there's two conditions in which it would run. So one of them is when it sees a play, when it doesn't see a player, it's just gonna find a random location in the scene in a particular radius, and it's just gonna move, and then it's gonna wait in that location, and it's gonna keep on doing that again and again. If it does see a player, what it's gonna do is it's gonna alert nearby enemies, right? So alert nearby enemies, nothing. It's just like it's a simple sphere trace that kind of like sets the state, this state, which this action state which we're getting. It just like could be like, oh, there we go, set itself like the other enemies to alert. So what alert does? Alert itself has some other features. All right. So what alert does is it's gonna first like prepping. So stop prep is basically when it like starts prepping up, right? So just for the example, you can see like the fire kind of like grows. There were times when it would like keep on prepping even though it would change state. So just like add like a stop prep in the beginning of every single state just to like kind of like make absolutely sure it's not like prepping up or anything. So when it sees the player, what's going to do is, since it's an orange, it's going to find a suitable attack point, right? Now this is pretty cool stuff. This is like really, really cool. So what this is, I'm going to go to my environmental, I'm going to put this guy here, right? I'm going to go to my environmental query player, which is this one. And then I'm gonna switch its EQS to find, oh, it's in find suitable attack point. So you guys can see, so environmental query system, right? So I'm just gonna switch all of them. Okay. So environmental query system is an experimental system in Unreal Engine in which it the AI knows about its environment around it. So what that means is you can basically create, like, make decisions based on things happening around you. It's a really, really interesting system that I loved working with. So first of all, when it alerts itself, right? Here's what it's gonna do. The first, it's gonna like generate a grid of points, right? It's gonna generate like I don't know how much was this. Let me see. Yeah, it was 1,000, right? Yeah, the grid half size is 1,000. So it's gonna create like that many points. And then what's gonna do is it's gonna populate those spaces with traces. So these are all individual traces it's found in the environment. So the AI knows these points exist in space. So next, what it's going to do is it's gonna check if if Tom is in sight. So it's gonna see. So you can see it's all 0, 0, and it kind of like filters out the area it doesn't want. So the first thing is we should keep in mind is this environmental query system will only run if it sees Tom. You can see it's one of the condition here. So only if it sees Tom, this environmental query is gonna run. So that means it's always going to like see Tom in some way or the other. If it doesn't, it's gonna automatically go back to the petrol state, go to a random location until it sees Tom. So we do something here. Let me bring Tom in front of it. And I'm gonna click environmental query system again. Boop. So now, all right. So now what you can see? Oh, there we go. So now we know for a fact that it can see Tom, right? So it can see Tom, and then if you can also have distance, right? So distance is another check it does. So it's gonna check how far away it is from Tom. So it's gonna sorry. So it's gonna check how far away it is, right? So you can if you see, I'm gonna switch off this to make stuff easier. So anything that is in green is the favorable location it will go to. So the higher the number, the higher the chance it will go to that point. So now that means it'll probably go to this point or this point if the player was here, or even this point 0.99. There we go. So these 3 points have way higher chances for the AI to choose than over here, right? So now what I'm doing next is I'm creating another kind of like distance, but I don't want the orange to get so close to player. So what I'm going to do is I'm filtering out like a circle. So this is like the thing, right? So anything between 500, any point within the 500 like unit radius, it's going to get filtered out. And then anything beyond 5,000 units from the player, it's going to get filtered out. So if I bring it in here, you can see like the 500 units, it's going to just get filtered out. So that means orange, for now, just in case, let you guys know, orange, come on, oh, there we go. Orange, it's the environmental query system, right? So environmental query system pawn is a testing point you can use to just test out your environmental query tree. It's not a tree actually, it's like a list of processes it is, and I love this bug where the cam gets big. All right, so it's gonna filter out. So now you guys can see the chances of it choosing stuff has changed. So now it's gonna choose anything in the 0.67 range. So now favorable points for this thing, it's going to be this point. So when it sees the player, even if it's near the player, it's gonna go away. So it maintains like this 500 unit radius between itself and the player. But then we can even make it more awesome. Path cost. You can add a path cost, right? So path cost is how much work it has to do to reach to that point. So the moment I add that, it's gonna be more sure of the points it wants to go to. So you can, for example, this corner, right? You can see it had I'll at least like some level of imagine like all of this just like went away, right? Every single point, like something or that couldn't choose, and at the end it came to like this point, right? And if like let's just take like these points for example, right? It had like these points to choose from, so it's gonna choose obviously 0.41 or 0.19. But getting to that point, it's going to be costly because it has to like travel either this way or it's going to travel this way. So when I add anything, like it discards like any points that until you can immediately see that it changes like these points to orange, because that means even these points are now undesirable. So now it's going to move and then it's going to search for points that is like closest for it to reach to, because it's going to prep up, right? So that means it's going to like go as fast as it can to like a point and then like start looking for the player to attack. I'll get soon into how the behavior tree kind of works for the player to look attack. And then overlap sphere. So what this overlap sphere does is it's gonna check for any other enemies in the self-chosen point. So if it was 2.33 and there was another enemy in its radius, it's not gonna choose that point. So if I bring it somewhere close to like here or something, you can see it won't favor. See if I'm going to remove my overlap, and you can see it will favor points that is near this enemies, right? But now if I remove this overlap, you can see it won't favor this anymore. It will favor stuff that is away from the enemies. It's still 500 meter far away. It's cheap to reach to, and yet it still has visibility of the player. Pretty cool, right? So I loved environmental query system, and this is the powerful system that you can still like do a lot of stuff about. All right, let's jump back into the behavior tree. So now what? So now it shows like an awesome point to go to. It's gonna move to that point and then it's gonna set the action for it to prep up, because that's it, right? It's not patrolling anymore. It's alert now. It got to a point where it can strategically attack the player. It's gonna prep itself up. So now prepping, in particular to orange, is a simple wind up till it shoots, right? So again, every single time it's going to make sure it sees the place, because there is no point in wasting seeds or bullets or ammo in this case when there's no player to shoot at, because what is it going to like shoot at if there's no player in its sight? So it's gonna still like defend itself. Again, you'll see these conditions like in common everywhere. So whenever it doesn't see player, boom, it goes back to alert. If it's an alert and it still doesn't see a player, boom, it goes back to patrol. So it kind of like does that, right? All right. So it's gonna start prepping up. So the orange will start prepping up to attack the player. So prep up is this little custom event that I wrote, which is basically the fire kind of event to get a visual feedback. So when I play this, you can see. Oh, I broke it. All right. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna move there. Let's start. It's patrolling. I'm just gonna alert. See, so that little fire thing it does, that's the visual feedback we needed to we need to know that it's prepping up. Of course, in game it's gonna change, but right now we're already prototyping, so we need something to do to get stuff done fast. And it's gonna start looking at player. So start looking at player is a simple like a function. It finds a look at rotation between itself and the player, and it sets the rotation itself to look at player. So if you guys notice, let me just disconnect start prepping, right? Let me disconnect start prepping, and let me just keep start looking at player. You'll notice, see, it's gonna just like start looking at us. Look at me now. All right, and it's gonna set back to days. I'll put back orange prep. All right. So now what it's going to do is, so once if it's prepped, there's a boolean value, right, in the custom timeline that I made back in base enemy. So there we go, this one, base enemy, or was it the controller itself? Oh, there we go. So it's in the orange. So when it's done prepping up, right, what it's going to do is it's going to set a value called prepped in the blue behavior tree to true. So when it's true, it's going to set itself to attack. So that's it, right? It shows a strategic spot. It prepped up and everything. If the player still didn't shoot, might as well start shooting. So it's going to attack. So attack is a really simple, like it's a really simple behavior tree. It's going to shoot like the right muzzle first, and then it's going to wait a second. It's going to shoot the left muzzle first, and then back and forth till it loses health or till it stops attacking player. Right now I've kept it in such a way it like till it sees the player it's going to keep on attacking. So you can actually see if I prep myself and then attack, see it's going to just like look at me and then start attacking. So even if I like go like this way or something, you can notice the arrow it like looking at me. It's prepping up again, so I'm going to start shooting. So it dazes itself. It's prepping up again and it's attacking, right? So I can shoot it to set it back to daze, something like that. And then last but not the least, the daze. Daze is nothing simple. It's going to stop itself from prepping up. It's going to stop attacking me and it's just going to wait there for like 2 seconds or something. Of course, this is going to be balanced like later, but then right now it's just going to chill and then be like play. So next, what else it can do? Like it can like, oh yeah, and then that's it. Once it's days, it's gonna go back to alert and start searching for the player and find a random spot to like look at. Okie dokie. Now. So now, actually, what I've started making is I've started making like the weapon mechanic itself, right? So switching weapons. So now the player itself has 2 weapons. So there we go. So that's like the orange. So once you harvested orange, this is what you'd be getting, the orange itself in your hand, right? But right now I'm making the weapons first and then I kind of like put them in a like switching states. And then I was thinking I could like implement the harvest mechanic where I could like harvest the oranges. So that means if we want to implement harvest mechanic, we would of course need to create stuff that lets the orange know that it has to go into stagger, like it has to be made aware of its own health. So now you can see like it's gonna do exact, so the weapon is gonna function as same as how the orange is, right? So it's gonna like prep up and then it's gonna like it's gonna just like start shooting, something like that. Okay. All right, so I think that should be it for like a prep up intro kind of a thing. I guess so now we'll like start I'll start making, like hopefully I'll start making in like the harvest mechanic itself, and then I'll hopefully see you guys tomorrow when I should be done with, like not done but at least like in a working state of the harvest mechanic. All right then, see you guys tomorrow. Take care and good night, good morning, good evening.